Gary, we'll go ahead and start the meeting. I guess we'll go ahead and turn the time over to you, Jay.
Yeah, apologize, I'm late. Thank you everyone for coming. For minutes. Yeah. Motion to approve minutes.
You need to either make the motion or.
I'll make the motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve our last minutes. 60 seconds. All right, and vote yes. Anybody against? Okay. Passes. Okay, thank you.
Now we'll go ahead and turn the time over to Craig. He's our consultant. We hired with the DDB consultants, and this is our first round of concepts or solutions to our Murdoch Canal Trail crossing. Just as a little bit of history, we've met 3 different times. We had a kickoff meeting, as well as 2 brainstorming sessions where we sat around with the consultant team and staff, and we just kicked around the ideas of how we could look at solving this problem here. So with that being said, we had 2 separate brainstorm sessions, and we came up with, I think there's 13 if you count the no build. But with that being said, I'll turn the time over to Craig and let's kind of go through these. And then at the end, I think he wants you guys, we have some criteria that we use. Things like compliance, cost, and some other items. We'll give you guys a chance how you would weight those. And then we would ask that you guys also then look at each one of these alternatives, score them, and we can kind of see how you would score them compared to how staff did. And then kind of, I think the next step would be is if they're all in line, or if we have 5 or 6 that are relatively the same, we would move then to probably get these a little bit more defined and refined. And then we have a public meeting where we invite people in that area to come down. Essentially allow them to give us some input. So with that being said, I'll turn the time over to Craig.
And thanks, Sam. So I'll just start out by introducing myself. Like Sam said, I'm Craig Friant. I'm with JUV Engineers. I'm the project manager for the consultant team. Holly here. I'll let Holly introduce herself.
I'm Holly Wood, also with JUV. I'm doing the public outreach, public involvement for the project. So the public open house exhibition, I'll help run it.
Okay. So
And also we have Jim Price here. He's our MAG representative. He's kind of the keeper of some of the funding, and he's also essentially the active transportation planner for MAG. So he's also a partner.
all right. Jim will keep me in line. I'm sure he will. So as Sam mentioned, we had a couple of brainstorming sessions. We started out, the first one was on June 29th. We started out by doing a functional analysis. That's just where we kind of look at the components that go into the intersection, like sidewalks, trails, signals, and what's the purpose of those, to try and get us to start thinking laterally and get us in that brainstorming mood and mindset, so that we could come up with some creative solutions. So that was a very productive meeting. At that point, we had generated several ideas, and we started refining them into how we could apply those to the intersection. So that we got so many ideas, we had to do a follow-up meeting on July 19th. That gave us time to sit and think about the ideas between the meetings and come to that next meeting with some more ideas. And we refined that, came up with 12 intersection treatments that we wanted to look at and evaluate. And so we identified those, and then at the same time we had a discussion, and we came up with criteria how we were going to rank each of these or rate and score each of these alternatives, so that we can try and narrow it down to what is going to provide the best value to the city to improve, safety and compliance of this intersection. We'll go through this a little later, but what we have written up here, those are the criteria that we'd come up with. And so I'll go into that here in a little bit, but I wanted to go through each of these 12 options that we came up with and allow you to look into those. And then we'll talk a little bit about the next steps and the feedback that we would like to get from the commission. So we have your feedback and input on these alternatives as well. So why don't we just start, we'll just go through them, start out with alternative number one of what we had come up with, so. Alternative number one we looked at here is essentially adjusting the way the pedestrian ramps are laid out at that intersection. As you go up there now, they have what engineering terms as an apex ramp, where it's just one opening at the ramp, and the crosswalks from both directions come to that single point, that opening. So the directional ramps, you've probably seen those on UDOT highways. There's actually two ramps and they're kind of separated, and they're meant to direct people across the appropriate crosswalk. So we came up with that idea here to kind of help people go to the right crosswalks. The apex ramp makes it easy for people to just go straight across the intersection, which some trail users have done. So that was one of the components of option one. We also had we eliminated the right turn lane, the northbound to eastbound right turn lane. Our initial traffic analysis shows that by eliminating that, there wasn't any significant impact to the functionality of the intersection. Still works just fine.
How would people go eastbound if they were headed north?
They could still turn right. It's just through right lane.
Instead of, okay.
Yeah. So
When was your analysis?
we did that in June.
What's that?
We collected all of our data while school was in, before school was out. Yeah, we don't, we're too close to school, so we made sure that was our very first thing we did, made sure we collected our traffic data while school was in session. Yeah. And then we did this alternative has some realignment of the trail. You can see as the trail comes up to the intersection, put a couple little S curves in it to kind of slow trail users down if they're riding their bikes as they approach the intersection. Added a little bit of landscaping to direct trail users to the correct pedestrian ramp. And let's see, and in the northwest corner there, since we have a decent shoulder there, we did a little bulb out, and the reason we did that is to reduce the distance that a pedestrian or trail user needs to traverse across the road. So they're.
It's not also slow down cars for making a right turn.
It
Does
can.
it do that?
It can. But one of the things we'd need to look at is if this is one that we progress forward, is just to make sure that it also has a big enough radius that vehicles can get around it, like trucks and trailers, things like that. I mean, not like we're having a big semi truck through here, but you know, if somebody has their camp trailer or boat, they need to make a right turn, make sure it has a balance between being able to make that turn, but also doing some traffic calming.
So another question too, if you're not on the trail, if you're riding a bike 1600 north, wouldn't that hold out, push you more into traffic if you're going westbound?
Yeah, if you're riding on the shoulder.
I ride this trail all the time, and going down 1600 north, sometimes I'll go a different route. That's a scary road.
16th North,
And,
yeah.
yeah, so that, I worry about the hold out pushing you more into the traffic.
Okay,
He's right, there's the fast paced bikers that are things.
well, that's something that would have,
Okay,
yeah, we could
yeah.
take a look at that if that's an option.
Yeah. So
We need to keep that in mind. Yeah, you're right.
But there could be a way to address that.
Yeah, you could pull that back a little bit more, give them some room there on the
Or
shoulder.
if you've got a bike path through that bike path. So the bikes will go through it, while the cars have to go around it.
And it's just if you have a pedestrian in that refuge area, you probably don't want a family sitting there and right
Yeah.
behind the bike lane that they're out there waiting. So, but I mean,
Yeah.
we can get, I think some of these will probably kind of fall out too, and if we want to go through all. We've
Yeah.
got 12.
But these are things, the thoughts that you're coming up with, keep those in mind, because we do want you to score these alternatives. And you obviously have some concerns about those, so keep that in mind as we get to the end of this. I'm gonna give you some time, probably over the next week or so, you know, when you guys have time to sit down and do your own evaluation of this. But those are things, good points to keep in mind, because that would affect how each of these would be affected, but you could address those issues, I think, with the bulb out.
Sorry, what's the green things? Are those bollards or just
Oh,
bushes?
they're bushes, so
Okay.
those essentially like bushes or small trees or something to try and direct trail users. And you can see we're showing some landscaping in between the ramps there, because that's some of the issues that we've had.
Want to keep them out of that corner.
Yeah, keep them at the corner, so improve compliance
Is that one will out on there?
on that one, yes. All right, we'll go to alternative two, and alternative two is very similar to alternative one. The main difference is on alternative two, we've eliminated all the right turn lanes, which means that you still make right turns, it's just they're through right lanes. In our analysis of existing traffic, and we also did a traffic analysis, we projected traffic out to 2050 for the future scenarios, and it does not, the elimination of the dedicated right turn lanes doesn't have that big of an effect on the functionality of the intersection. So that's what this alternative would suggest. And by doing that, you can see the curb is pulled out a little into the road a little bit. That shortens the crossing distance for actually all of the legs. But you'd still want to look at that if there's bike lanes, or make sure that there's something there for cyclists that are actually riding on 16th North.
Is your intent to leave the other crosswalks and
Yeah.
have these in addition?
All on this alternatives 1 and 2 here, we keep crosswalks in all legs. So
So what if cars stop on that one? Are they not going to be allowed to stop there? Is the stop bar back?
the stop bar would be back behind all the crosswalks, so they would not be, they would have to stop behind the crosswalks. And where it's signalized, that makes it easier to do that. People are directed by the traffic signal. So, and we would do enhanced ones, 1 and 2 would have enhanced crosswalks. You can see the striped high visibility crosswalk for the direction that the trail users are encouraged to follow. And then standard crosswalks for the other legs. Let's see, number 3. So alternative 3, this one's a little more deviation of alternative 1. It's the same type of thing, directional pedestrian ramps, adjusting the trails that comes into the intersection. This one is very similar to alternative 1, where just the northbound to eastbound right dedicated right turn lane is eliminated, and then there's just a through right. But this one, we came up with the idea of what if we put an amenity or something here in this corner, the southwest corner, that attracts trail users to come to that point, whether it's a restroom, whether it's a shelter, benches or water or something. So that trail users wouldn't want to like take whatever the quickest way is or go diagonally across the intersection, which is one of the compliance issues we've had. So it just attracts trail users to the corner. So it also encourages people to comply with the traffic laws as they cross the intersection. So
So currently notice on the last alternative, both of the new crosswalks were diagonal hatching.
Mhm.
On this next one, you've got the ladder and can you clarify the difference between those?
Yeah, and like I said, these are concepts, so that's not set in stone. It's just like high visibility. I think this one is the difference is, I believe, is the diagonal, like it's right here, is typically associated with a school zone. You might be able to correct me if I'm wrong on that, Taylor.
So this would not be allowed, it would be diagonal high visibility.
Which
Okay,
is
so-
that is the law, because I know we have anywhere in that have to stop, but the other one, if they pass you,
Just the two,
Past the middle of the road.
half the road.
yeah, so if it doesn't have lines. You don't, as soon as they're past, you have to go. But is there a difference between the ladder and the diagonal?
Yeah, so like Taylor was saying,
That's just a mistake.
yeah, so ladder is the school zone, which we
Okay.
should have used the diagonal. Diagonal is high visibility.
Okay.
So, like I said, that's something we just missed. We should have shown the high visibility crosswalk and not the school zone crosswalk there.
Where is the school? Remind me.
So the high school is just down the street here, right?
Yeah.
So it's just high school, is that all it is?
Tipping on the sides.
There's no elementaries in the middle?
Elementary school,
Yeah, it's,
But they don't use, I mean, that's not a safe route to school, designation, is it?
isn't technically because the way that the schools are zoned,
Yeah.
but my kids go to that school on the north side. It's North Ridge Elementary, and there are kids that cross
The
the
kids from the south.
north in order to. So it's not like legally a safety,
Safe route.
safe route to school, but people are using that route to get to school.
There's no other crosswalk all the way down till when? Main Street?
Probably.
There's the one at 400 East, where there's a mid block, but that's the one that might be getting a hot light. I know you're in conversation with the school about that. It's something that would have a little bit more visibility, because it doesn't have any visibility other than. Hopefully cars slow down. and they see-
The one right at.
No, the one that's, it goes right to something else, the other street. that-
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so between Main Street and 400. There is, but hopefully it's turning to a lot.
Well, kind of depends, because one of these alternatives also shows shifting Innisful crossing west. And if that's a preferred one too, probably. look to combine it, right?
yep. All right, Fred, we can go to the next one and we've got several others here.
There's a junior high there too, so you got kids coming from Canyon View. Going up there.
So there's value in doing this because there's a lot of pedestrians. Absolutely. Alternative 4. So this is where we adjusted the trail locations. So you can see here, the trails were shown to be realigned with this alternative to divert to the east and come over and cross here at about 1640 north, right here. At this point, to get them safely across the street, we would propose a pedestrian hybrid beacon. Sometimes it's called a hawk signal. If you've heard of a hawk signal, it's just a pedestrian signal. When the pedestrians come, they push the button, it starts flashing. Cars have to stop, let them go past, and then cars can go again. So we can get trail users and pedestrians safely across the street. And then they would follow the east side of 4th East down to the intersection and then cross the east leg here back onto the trail. So it's diverting them out of the way right now where they're going. See, I think that's kind of the main thing. Oh, and then most of these options were showing the right turn lane, dedicated right turn lane on 4th East going northbound to eastbound being eliminated, because that one didn't have a lot of traffic that even used that. So that can be part of that option as well, which does the same thing. It shortens the distance when they cross the south leg of how much pavement.
400 East be then like a straight bike lane, or is it anticipated that people will use the sidewalk?
Right here.
Yes.
Yeah, that would need to be a widened sidewalk. Pretty much a trail would meet the minimum, at least the minimum widths for a trail. So that would impact the side yards of these properties. So yeah, we'd need to make sure that we had the width there, so we could
So you
accommodate.
make the sidewalk wider to match the width of the trail specifications.
Yes, correct.
But we can't eat into the street for that. It would have to take people's.
I mean, there's probably could eat into the street a little bit, but there's not a lot of, the shoulders aren't very wide, so I think it would be a little bit of both probably, but it would impact the properties.
Separate from the standpoint of having the trail traffic, which frequently is on wheels of some type. And then a separate piece of sidewalk that is for pedestrians, but would those pedestrians have to get into the trail essentially for that half a block?
Right here, I think this would be typical of the Murdoch Canal Trail where it's, what is it, 15 feet right now? Shared bike, pedestrians, and, all non-motorized traffic would share the same space right through this section
Okay.
here.
So would there be markings on it, like there's part of Provo River Trail that, it's like showing where people are supposed to be and bikes, et cetera.
So For a 15-foot wide trail, I'm not a fan of striping it, and Jim might smack me if I get it wrong, but. But with a 15-foot wide trail like Murdoch Canal Trail is, there's adequate room. And so there's not really a need to direct people where they need to go. And I've ridden Provo River Trail, and it's a little narrower and it's high traffic volume. And so for safety, I think is why they need to stripe it and say, this is where pedestrians walk, this is where bikes go, to eliminate those conflict points, because it is narrow and very high volume. But with the 15-foot wide trail, I don't think the striping is necessarily needed. Did they say anything wrong?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay.
You look at my. Talk to or. Chairman, all right.
Go, by all means.
Just a little history on this, the building Murdoch is all design excluded by design, excluded striping. The idea behind that was that we're going to have so many different uses within that 15 feet of asphalt. But the observation was that Provo Canyon had those 3 lanes. Is that pedestrians trying to tend to spread out and not paying attention to the lanes. And cyclists like to kind of have their head down and go as fast as they can, a lot of cyclists. And they figured once they're in their lane, they shouldn't have to worry about slowing down or keep paying attention. But of course, pedestrians are doing what pedestrians do. And so cyclists and pedestrians don't mix very well, obviously. One of the reasons we built the Murdoch is why it is, to give some separation. And there's pros and cons about striking, about giving pedestrians and giving cyclists their own lanes. I think the real answer to that question is you need to give them separated facilities.
Right.
And unfortunately, we didn't at the time when we were designing this 13 years ago. We didn't really consider doing that entirely.
So the thought that I have is that half block, that's a neighborhood. People walk their dog
Right.
or whatever, and they're used to being able to meander across the sidewalk and nothing. And instead of completely separated, if there was maybe a curb. So that, you know, just enough of a barrier that says, hey, bike's over here and walking over here. You're gonna have somebody get run over if there aren't lanes and some type of a curb divider, because pedestrians will wander. But if you put that curb up, it would be, oh yeah, okay, this is my side, that's their side. And it's, you know, it's what, a half a block there, that it would be separated.
I'd love to do that entire.
Well,
Yeah, I appreciate your comment.
Yeah. That's a very good point.
Right, I do have a question for you though.
All right.
Okay. Knowing what weekends, especially Saturday morning. Volume, bike, that volume garment. How well does the hawk work under those conditions? Where you may have 30 people backed up across.
In this case, I would say it probably works about the same as the traffic signal that is right now. So we may have some of the same compliance issues. But
I have
It's-
seen them just going for it,
yeah, that's part of the issue. We,
runners especially.
yeah, the city mag did a compliance study, and there's cyclists that just go for it diagonally through the intersection against the light. They just go.
Some rather scary video.
Yeah,
What's the minimum spacing between the hawk signal? Is there, or does it just go if you hit it again?
I'd say we wanna all be at least walk away, but all the areas that are less than that.
yeah.
There's no minimum in the MUTCD.
There might be, where I'll have to do some research, but no.
Yeah, there's fairly new within the last few years, guidance for hawk signals that they can be at intersections now. That used to be one of the guidelines. You weren't supposed to put hawk signals at intersections. But that's been changed and there's warrant criteria that you go through that you can't allow that. Vineyard City did one on 4th North and Main Street a couple of years ago. So now they do have a hawk signal at an intersection.
It's the only signal at the
It's the
intersection.
only signal at the intersection, yep. That's because a traffic signal isn't warranted there
Right,
yet, so
yep.
they had to do the hawk. All right. We got some more options here to show you. Great feedback, by the way. And keep this in mind too, because I want to give you guys the opportunity to score these and I want you to keep that in mind. So alternative 5 here. This one, this idea is to put a right turn bypass lane in. As part of our initial study, we found some documentation that there's been some near misses in this corner. And so this corner specifically had some safety concerns, but this would have a free right. So right turners could turn right here, you have the crossing island here. The trail then would cross, go to the crossing island and then go back north here. This one has directional pedestrian ramps like all the other options do. This one does, we're showing that bulb out on most of these options to try and minimize that crossing distance. And so between the island here and the bulb out, there would be, we'd narrow down that crossing distance. And then again, closing the northbound to eastbound right turn lane and combining that with the through lane. So that's one of the options there.
What's the directional crosswalk separated on your northeast corner?
Right over here.
Now, what's that mean?
Means that the pedestrian ramps right here, there's a ramp here in this corner. And then over here in this corner that line up with crosswalks. So they're more set to be direction. So there's one ramp for each direction. There's one ramp for the east-west crossing, and there's a separate ramp for the north-south crossing. So as you go out there now, there's one ramp. It's kind of in the middle of the curb return. And that's the same ramp is used for whichever direction you're crossing.
Are these, you pull a little baby bug behind it,
Oh, like it's
the
an
wagon, yeah, the little.
Yeah.
wagon, little
Yeah.
trailer can trip.
Yeah, they
They
would.
get on those to side and turn, you make that turn to get to the other one.
Yeah, and we make these things wider, so you can kind of see the, in this northeast corner, the trail isn't over here, so it just matches the sidewalk width, so it would be the same as any sidewalk ramp. We have to meet those requirements. For the trail, we'd make it wider, because with trails, your ramps need to be the width of the trail. But yeah, you shouldn't have any problem with strollers and things.
Or they-
So, yeah. Let's see. So that one is pretty much the right turn bypass. The next one here is number 6. So this is realigning the trail again. So this one, it's proposed in this alternative that the trail be relocated to about 350 east, so about the west side of this undeveloped land. And then it would be a mid-block crossing here across 1600 North. So it would be at grade, this option with a pedestrian hybrid beacon or hawk signal. So that can control traffic and stop traffic for trail users to cross. So at grade crossing, and then the trail would then be realigned along the south side of 1600 North and then come up and tie into the intersection. There'd be a directional crosswalk here. This option suggests to remove this crosswalk on the west leg. It can stay if it needs to, but way we could just realign the trail down to this directional crosswalk. And so there's really only one way to cross and get on the trail here. And then it would tie back into the existing alignment with this little bit of an S curve like we have on all the options for safety. So
To just point earlier, there'd be some barrier between traffic, through traffic on 600 North and bikers and pedestrians using the trail.
On the trail.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'd have to have like a curb or something to separate it. That's by standard. Yeah, we'd need to have something there to separate that.
So like down on. Sometimes you go, what goes up to like Bulldog Boulevard.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what it's called now, but like that. Or- protected by-
This alternative, we were just thinking it would just be a trail. So basically you'd have your roadway, your curb and gutter. If there's room, maybe a planter strip and then your pavement 10 to 15 feet wide
It's a
for the
shared
trail.
sidewalk.
Yeah, it'd be like a very wide sidewalk, that area.
but
Yeah,
it would be separate. There'd be a separation from the.
from vehicular traffic, yes.
Yeah, like.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
Do we know who owns that property, that triangular?
Mary Ann. Martin, or she's already did it. all.
To 7? I'm on 6.
Which one? Maybe the next one coming up is the one with the free ride.
The free ride, that was one just before this right here. That was 5.
That's 5.
Yeah.
Page 7, alternative 5.
Sorry.
Sorry about that. Question on that. We observed that during the initial study,
Uh-huh.
that west sidewalk is actually quite heavily used.
Right here.
So how would pedestrians be protected on that free ride
Free ride.
traffic
Yeah, so there would be
or north of Shotgun pedestrian?
north, south, yeah. So there'd be crossing here, there would be another crosswalk right here. It's not necessarily high visibility, but yeah, it's kind of hard to see, but we'd have another pedestrian ramp here. They could cross someplace in here between the this side, the south side of the free ride and the island. There would be a crosswalk there. So. Yeah,
Well, just,
just want to make sure that they can make that.
but like turning vehicle, essentially have. That would ride.
Yep.
The problem is you have those on interstates everywhere. So they're not uncommon.
Yeah, there would need to be signing to, for a pedestrian crossing. But that is an issue. Jamie bring up a great point too, that with this alternative, there's that issue where there's free turn right movements and pedestrians try to even get across there, so. This one may not score as high, I don't know, as you go through it. We'll go through the scoring criteria. And but that's something to keep in mind. So all these ideas are fantastic and keep them in mind, especially as you score these alternatives. Yeah, we just went over this one where we realign it. So it's that's 6, so alternative 7, the same type of thing where we realign the trail to the west side of this property, but do a grade separated crossing. So this one just kind of shows going underground underneath 1600 north. But as you come around, we need to come back up to grade. And so we have this clover leaf type, well, not a clover leaf, the circle here as you come up and loop back around to grade on the street, and then have the widened trail, basically a widened sidewalk that connects you back to 4th East and the Murdoch Canal Trail. So this one, like I said, it's grade separated, so it does have a bigger footprint as we try and come up from the undercrossing to existing grade. This line you see right here is just a sidewalk connection for those that don't want to cross, that just want to get on the sidewalk here. It's a sidewalk bypass, so an at-grade connection to the trail there.
No.
Yeah.
I'm sure you do, but
Yeah, it's one thing to keep in mind. I mean, this grade separated crossing does have a bigger impact to the property footprint and private property. So that's something to keep in mind. I mean, it's great for safety, but they do cost more, but
What's the pink dash lines and the purple stitch? in the purple and pink?
right.
Dash and then, yeah.
Oh, right here. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so that the pink dash lines signify where we expect a retaining wall to be. As the trail starts to climb back up to existing grade, we would need a retaining wall there. So that dashed line signifies the areas of where a retaining wall would need to be. So, yeah, with the retaining wall, we can minimize how much property is permanently impacted. We'd have to get in there and dig it out, but put a wall in, and then that property can be landscaped and used again. So anyway, so that's that. So options 6 and 7 are basically moving it over to here about 350 east, one with an at-grade crossing, one with a grade separated crossing. Alternative number 8, this is grade separated crossing coming underneath the intersection as best we could. So we're talking about this a little bit at the beginning of the meeting about, you know, why isn't it more through the center of the intersection? And that is because the aqueduct, the Provo River water users aqueduct, the canal is piped, and it's essentially about right underneath the trail right here. So we'd need to offset that enough. And so this is just our initial thought and layout. But
Just get into that bike and make it a triathlon.
triathlon, just swim the web. Yeah, if you're going downstream, you don't have to swim, you just have to hold your breath and you're gonna fly.
Like a water slide. Yeah.
Can you shift, why can't we shift to the right, and go up the northeast of the intersection?
Over,
back up to the top? Or is it aqueduct the building is, or the buildings, you see what I mean, and then join back in?
so like if we crossed up here,
Cross. Underneath, over the other corner, yeah.
right there.
Still diagonal.
She's saying follow the river, go to the right of it.
Go to the right of it, so this way.
Yeah. On this side.
Yeah,
I know.
how big is the canal in there?
It's 70.
The right of way is too, we got more canal right away to work with on this side.
Mhm.
And on this side, it's right there, we have to purchase that piece of property.
Yeah.
There, right here, we can, I mean, there's a chance that this gets swinging a little closer, but we have a single pole there, and it could be part of the structure and
Yeah,
whatnot, but there's like this.
What's the concern with
The base.
this line?
You got 2 underground, or local underground, right?
Yeah,
Green, yeah.
So the concern is the woman, I'm not taking that back. I'm not running underground sliding ones.
that's a valid concern. I've heard that many times with under crossings.
is there a alternative?
Shorter.
To go under, go over?
Yeah, well, the shorter the under, the better, over would be better.
Over's harder for cyclists, strollers. I mean, you still have the up going, but
You'd have
It-
the same
it is.
amount
So-
down.
yeah.
Probably, I mean, we probably could show a few of those overs.
Mhm.
We just have to thread between the distribution line and then the high voltage line.
Yeah.
So in order to make that work, we have to bury, if you were to go to Street View, they got those big lines there, we have to bury, go under, come back up, so we go over at a
Mhm.
normal height.
You guys tell me how the next meeting, you guys said you had that at 820 North in Provo, and the woman did not go under and she got by a car.
Oh, really?
Oh, that just recently happened this spring.
A year ago.
Huh. Yeah, I'm.
Has anybody heard anything with the
remember that.
UVU one? That's pretty long. Has there been any issues over there?
You
No,
want
that's what I'm
long
saying.
and it's straight,
That's
it's
all.
wide.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, some history too, when we went to pipe this, we really pushed hard for this. And because of the same concerns that you have, that's, our police chief at the time wasn't a big fan of it, because they like to be able to drive by and be able to see up in there. And anyone who's entering it wants to be able to see, they don't want us to have a bend. But I mean, as part of this process, when we bring it to the public, the first thing they're gonna ask is, well, did you look at going underneath? And it's like, well, yeah. Yeah, we did. I mean, it's kind of
Mhm.
part of the process is, yeah, this is what it is and it's long and it's narrow and it's just, it's not comfortable.
So those buildings. it's nothing.
Yeah, I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm not
It's
sure.
not really very useful property.
Well,
That's what I'm saying.
it's funny you say that because it looks like it's,
Oh, look, you're taking a word perfect home down here to do your little roundabout. That's gonna
It's-
cost tons more.
looking at this, it's Obach that owns it.
I know who that is, yes.
Yeah. So,
We can make a deal.
yeah.
I will just say the other challenge with underground, because there's one right by the cemetery.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I rollerblade or roller skate with my kids
Uh-huh.
along that, and some of them don't want to go down too fast.
Too
So
steep.
then we cross at street level.
Oh, okay.
Where there isn't a crosswalk to continue on the trail. That's the other group. Because generally, I would think separated grades is the safest for pedestrians and cyclists. Like,
Yeah.
you're not gonna have vehicles running into people if you do it that way, but those are they're not being unsafe or.
Yeah.
Like.
I could see that, especially on, Yeah.
Otherwise, it's super fun.
yeah, I was gonna say,
Great, take it slow.
yeah, you could do that. That just means we have to, it extends the length of it, but yeah, that's. You know, at this point, we haven't looked at that much detail, but yeah, that's
User feedback.
very, very good.
It's exercise, right?
Yeah,
It's,
but I don't like to go down, no, it's too steep under the cemetery. I'm
I-
not in control enough on the.
I'd be the same
Some
way.
kids go that way.
I'm not that comfortable on rollerblades. My bike, yeah, I love going downhill on my bike, but rollerblades,
No, just take your pulse and calculate your speed.
I'm
Hope for the best.
just wear a lot of padding.
My snorkel, that's
Oh, perfect. That was great feedback. Thank you for this feedback. Let's see, let's move on to the next one. This is a roundabout option. So this is one that the city actually put together a concept report for some funding. The initial thought was to do a roundabout to improve compliance here and safety. And so that's as part of our scope of work, what we're doing. A roundabout is one of the options we are going to look at. So, but this is the roundabout option. You can see it does take up a little more property on each corner. But in the southeast corner, there's some property that's already owned, I believe, by the city.
Southwest.
So what's
Southwest, excuse me.
You know, Sam, or you staff the traffic count on the roundway. And 12th South over by the university. And the traffic count here. And the reason I ask is that on the roundabout, which is close to where I live over there behind the Hobby Lobby. If there is a pedestrian and the roundabout stops. Boy, that's a bad situation of having people trying to get through a roundabout. They're coming around a corner. And somebody else has stopped because there's a pedestrian and the whole thing backs up. I guess, and I may be wrong, but there's more traffic on 1600 North than there is on 12 South. And I would think that you would have more potential for that backup. And trouble, I don't know.
I mean, that's a great observation. I mean, that's why we're looking at all these other options, because the roundabouts are great to move cars, but you inject a few pedestrians, it's probably gonna be okay, but a lot of pedestrians, it may not be the right choice.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but this was part of the process to see what people see and how it fits, and I think part of it is too, is you get a chance to see all of them, how they stack up and which is gonna be better. And it's interesting because some of the purists will think, well, a roundabout's gonna be okay because the speeds are slower, so the severity of the accident should be less. And it's kind of yeah, exactly. It's kind of it's a different way to look at it. I try not to look at it that way, but I mean, it's just.
Yeah.
Okay, dirt on it.
What are the traffic volumes?
I don't have that data with me. I have some traffic data, but not all the volumes, but we do have it. So if you want, I can bring it back to the
I'm
office. I can
just-
share it with you.
Just curious what it is on 1600, talking 5,000 or 20,000?
Oh, 16? I
Yeah.
wanna say in this area it was For the TMP update, it was like around 9 or 11, it seemed like. What I recall, it was-
What's 400 looks like?
what's that,
400?
400 west?
Yeah.
See that?
No,
area-
400 east. What is 400 east?
Oh, 400 east, I don't know what 400 east is.
It's not gonna be a lot, right?
No, it's not gonna be, it's not like, I mean, we have it running free right now because of the pedestrian movements. If it wasn't for the peds, the predominant movement's gonna be east-west, and it wouldn't be like it's a balanced intersection, like Dark Eighth and 80.
What's the pedestrian or trail counts?
Depends, I mean, there's
We have that data too,
Summertime.
just don't have it.
like 1,000 folks a day.
On the weekends or every day?
I think that peak was like on a Saturday.
Okay, that would be-
It's a lot.
Your mornings, it is kind of interesting because your pedestrian fees on trails concur or occur at the same time on your particular fees. So when you get the most
Saturday
use of the
afternoon.
trail, you got the most piece of roadway as well.
Wow.
Which the one is, in roundabout situations, you get much more difficult. of people trying to get through. Plus, you're crossing that roundabout twice with the trail. So they fight through one. And, you know, somebody coming south on the trail fights through, and then they come across and they get the same part that they're fighting to get to the next piece of the trail.
Yeah.
It just. I don't know, well,
Not a fan of that.
Yeah, see, that's good. And one of the things we did point out here that we could do here is a rectangular rapid flashing beacon. You've probably seen those at crosswalks. It's just the sign with the flashers. You push the button, it just flashes
right,
to one driver. That could be done here. But yeah, there are issues with the roundabouts, so. Well, we got the next option, which is, we got a little bit innovative on this next option, so. How long you see, so this is what we're calling an enhanced roundabout. So we're trying to think about getting the trail users through here, and what if we could take trail users through the center of the roundabout? This would require something to control traffic in the roundabout, and so we're proposing a hawk signal, which would stop people in the roundabout when pedestrians were going through. We still have the crosswalks, you know, as standard on each leg, but for trail users, it would provide an opportunity to go right through it, but they would have to stop, hit the button for the lock signal before they could go. This is, I don't know that I've ever seen one like this, but this is when we talked about it as a team, you know, we were trying to come up with ideas, and you know, this was something that we thought was worth thinking about and looking into a little bit more, but
They do have one like that, but it's a rail line that goes right through the middle of it.
Yeah.
But that's where that kind of
yeah.
came from.
Is there one like the underground number 8 with a roundabout there also?
Number 8 right here
Like that and a roundabout.
and a roundabout.
But you want it all.
What are you trying to solve here? What's the problem? Is pedestrians getting hit that are on the trail?
It's,
That'll stop. That's the same. Then you
Yeah.
have the roundabout that's gonna slow people down. That seems like it was more than just the roundabout. Just.
yeah,
It wouldn't be a bad idea, but the opportunity is gonna be there, so this is the third one. that
Yeah, you're looking for 30
This whole thing's gonna be blown up, so
Yeah.
I mean, although, I mean, the only challenge would be is the piece there that we have marked as daylight or open with retaining walls that I think is part of the roundabout, so I think that, or else you have to shift to the northeast. That would be the only thing that I can see right now, if we wanted to have that.
yeah.
It'd have to be all straight.
We'd have to look at that.
Can you shrink that roundabout corner?
And I just have to look and make sure it's enough capacity. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's something maybe.
we'd have to look, what I want to look at too is right now it's traffic signal and see like traffic functionality, because if we pull the pedestrians out of that, putting them through the grade separated crossing, Is a roundabout gonna improve our traffic flow more than a traffic signal is already doing it?
Yeah, well, people are still gonna cross.
Yeah. They still are, yeah,
So I
they
think
need to
it's
have
like-
them do it. Yeah, so either one of those options would work, so, yeah, that's a good idea. All right, let's see. But yeah, here's, so this is, something we thought is worth looking at, trying to be innovative here to find a way to find a solution here. So we've run through the last couple, so alternative 11 is similar to some of these others we've looked at, except it's adjusting and realigning the trail to Quail Road, half a block or block east of the intersection. Crossing the people at this intersection here at Quail Road. That's a good place to cross. We could put a hawk signal there to facilitate that crossing. And then moving the trail to the north side of 1600 North, which would be like the extra wide sidewalk like we've talked about. On all these other options, and then they'd just cross the north leg of the intersection here to get back on the Murdoch Canal Trail.
So you block off the trail.
Right here,
How do you-
right there, yeah, we'd have to block it off, do something to stop people from using that. It still needs to be a maintenance road, at least for the canal, but we could mill that up or do something. But yeah, we'd have to do something with that trail to prevent trail users from using that.
I have it with,
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I think it already is planted.
But it's unfortunately of this section, that is one of the prettiest spots right there. It's shaded, it's a really pretty view.
Right here, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I
I,
like this option, but I was like, oh, but you take the prettiest
Yeah.
spot on the whole trail, where I want.
right? Yeah, taking you away from the trees, putting you next to the traffic, that is a concern. But yeah, like same thing, hawk signal, similar to the others we were looking at. And then the 12th option would be what we call a pedestrian scramble. Basically keeping the signalized intersection the way it is, but striping crosswalks diagonally. So people come up to the intersection, they would have to hit the pedestrian button, wait for a pedestrian phase, and then they could cross any direction diagonally, cross whichever leg they need to. But with this, when the pedestrian phase is on, vehicular traffic can't enter the intersection. So there's no right turn on red.
Right.
We would need to have blank out signs. Same thing with pedestrians. When there's a green light for vehicles, no pedestrian movement is allowed.
They used that in downtown Pasadena.
Yeah,
That's where corporate headquarters were. And in the main streets, Fairbanks, Colorado, they use that.
yeah,
And when it's pedestrian time, it's just like a madhouse, but everybody waits, and waits and waits, and then they're free to go.
yeah.
So,
And I
Well,
think,
it solves the problem too, of having to cross two directions.
right.
Cyclists or pedestrians.
Yeah, you don't have to cross one and then wait
Yeah,
across the other. This allows you to just get through the intersection.
yep,
And with no vehicular traffic, everybody's on red, no right turns on red. Then it allows pedestrians to get through without any chance of getting run over,
yeah.
unless they're way slow.
do you also have? Is there a capacity in this process to say, like the idea of putting an amenity in that corner and a scramble crosswalk and making it so trail users slow down a little bit right before they get to the intersection and sort of hodgepodge some of the ideas? Is there an opportunity? to
Yes,
say, I like
absolutely.
4, but I like this part of number 4 and this part of number 8. Are we gonna be able to do that?
Yeah, yeah, if you want to give us that feedback because what I want to do after this is send you some digital copies of these maps.
Yeah.
A link to a Google Form where you can score each of these alternatives. And then, you can provide those kind of feedback. And we've talked about that, like the amenity in the corner. We've kind of already talked about that, like that doesn't necessarily need to be its own alternative. That can be applied to anything. And it might be a good idea to apply it to all of these, it's an opportunity to do that. But yeah, absolutely. I think as you've seen a lot of these alternatives, we've done little S curves coming up to the intersection. That's kind of incorporated in all of them.
I just didn't see it in this one, so I was like,
Yeah.
oh, does that mean this wouldn't have the S curve or? but
Yeah,
that
this
sounds good.
one, we're just looking at the scramble, but yeah, there's definitely opportunity to do that. So yeah, that's a great point. Thanks for bringing that up, because yeah, we can, if you see something that's in some of these other options, you think might be good to combine them with others, we'd love to get that feedback. It's good.
Thanks, Taylor. So what does that do to our cars?
Depends on how much pedestrian traffic. Most of the day, in the summer, I'll have a greater impact.
They push the button, they get in the cycle, they're not in the cycle otherwise. Other than the cycle. And then do time frames change?
They can, right now, and how we would probably run it and operate it, it's run it free, so. When a signal, if someone were to push a button, then the signal would start looking for a gap traffic. And then once there's a gap, it would gap out and sort of. We've done that in other areas. Yeah, don't want to stop that car at full speed if possible, but before you cross the pedestrian, so if you can run that gap. Come on.
Well, if there is one at the crossing right at the high school entrance. That would make a lot of the families I know that cross that
Well,
street to go north.
That's what I was
Really
gonna
happy.
say, because frankly, I'm on 1500 north, about, 2 blocks west of here, and just even coming to the city, I cannot get out on. Just until, I would love that, because it would do a pause, right, in the cars for a little while. It gives me a break, but I guess I don't know how often, by the same token, you don't want to hear our cars too much, then it's frustrating. Sit through.
The natural cycle is probably about 80 to 97. It's a fairly short cycle. You would increase that amount because you have across that.
So if you have like pedestrians, say they want it. Does it shorten the time for the cars then, or does it just activate this whole cycle?
Just goes through the cycle. There's cycle for the north, down, southbound, eastbound, westbound, and pedestrians. So, the times it gives each movement change, so pedestrians.
So sometime during like 5 o'clock, you're gonna have to get on traffic. So
And we could fix those times, set aside certain durations of time if you want to. Think if you're in the scramble, you want to minimize the ways and the streets.
But I use those crosswalks, it feels like, it feels like the pedestrian crossing time is a bit longer than a public crosswalk.
Generally, it is in my experience, because diagonal walk is gonna be nearly twice, not quite twice, but.
What's your question?
That if you do a scramble, the pedestrian time to cross feels longer than when I have crossed it, not a scramble cross. As a way to move more people and give them a little bit bigger.
Yeah,
So would you leave the other 4 crosswalks? You
Yeah.
have to, right?
yeah, we have to.
Yeah. So my concern, you already have non-compliance, right? And you have non-compliance of people going diagonal So my only concern is that your non-compliance now is encouraging diagonal non-compliance.
Yeah, this would
That's,
more allow the trail user movement and change the compliance to the vehicular traffic because of this would stop them longer. But yeah, I think this type of intersection works well, like you said, like in the downtown area, where there's a lot of pedestrians, they're all over the place, you know.
but there's a lot of cars too, so when they
Yeah.
have to kind of wait their cycle.
Yeah.
Or they're gonna get hit.
Yeah,
Any example of crosswalks that have barriers? Prevent pedestrians, I'm thinking like a rail crossing. You get a guard down, which obviously isn't gonna stop a car, but, you know, if you had something at the crosswalks. That was a physical barrier that moved, I don't know if there's anything out there in the market like that.
yeah,
Guard dog, yeah.
I don't know. There's
They drop into the ground and come up, you know.
come up and stop them. Yeah, I know that, well, when I've done rail crossings where sidewalks or trails cross railroad tracks. And they have the gates, the active crossings, they don't really like to have the gate come across the sidewalk. They don't want to really block that, because if somebody's in there in the rail corridor, they want them to be able to get out, and if the arm comes down, it makes it harder. But a lot of times they'll put gates where it kind of makes you swerve around them, so when you turn one way, you look to your left, you turn back, you look to the right. Those are all over, and you've probably seen a lot of those. But, you know, those have been applied to a lot of railroad crossings, and I think they could be applied to intersections too. In fact, I think they are on, well, I like riding my bike, and I live in Spanish Fork, so I ride the the Mapleton Canal Trail. And wherever there's crossing, they have gates similar to that makes you slow down. It's just there's narrow space for you to go through, so you have to really slow down. And it just slows everybody down as they cross the intersection, guides them to where they need to be. Sorry, I'm taking up a lot of your time, but the last alternative was just the no build, and we use this as a reference point to compare all these other alternatives to see how they compare to the existing conditions. There were some questions about traffic, so this is a little bit of our traffic summary. This isn't like the full day traffic, but we looked at the level of service of the intersections, and I assume you've probably heard that term, level of service. Quantifies the efficiency of the intersection. So right now, with 2023 traffic, the AM and PM peak hours are operating at a level of service B. The peak hour for the pedestrians is different than the AM and PM peak hour for vehicles, but it's also operating as level service B. So the intersection is operating really well right now. And you can see these are the volumes for the different directions. This is in your handout too, but if you wanted to see, like, at least for the peak hour, you can see what those.
What is the 95th%?
That means how far traffic would back up. So if we were needed to do a turn lane, that's how far back we could anticipate cars queuing up at the intersection. And then the next one here, this is 2050. So we did we projected the traffic to 2050 with the existing configuration. We still have level of service B for the AM peak hour and the pedestrian peak hour, but the PM peak hour goes to level of service C, but level of service C is still an acceptable level of service, so it's still functioning fine.
That's with the traffic is current land use, right?
Yes. Yeah. Just projected it using the growth rates. I think we used MAG's RTP on that one for growth rates to.
There's any projections, like the level of service for pedestrian, does it project the number of pedestrians as part of that level of service?
Yep. Yeah, we did. Yeah, so these. So if you can see right here, this column, these are the volumes right now. So you can kind of see what those are in 2050. If you go
30 more people, we actually have 30 more cars and 30 more people.
Yeah. During that hour.
So 80 more cars.
Yeah. So that did grow as well. Kind of want to wrap this up, talk about our evaluation criteria. Sorry, I'm taking up a lot of time, but these are the evaluation criteria that we're using to score each of these alternatives as we try and figure out which ones provide the best solution. We're looking at roadway safety, and these are just some descriptions of what that means. Trail user safety, cost, so how expensive is the option? We're looking at like relative cost, you know, compared to the others. Vehicle level of service, so you know, how is this affecting how we get vehicles through here? And then there's trail level of service, so you can think of that as convenience for the trail users. You know, how convenient is it going to be for somebody to get through here? And then compliance, like we talked about, that's one of the big issues. How likely are the vehicles, pedestrians, cyclists, you know, everybody that's coming through here, how likely are they going to abide by the traffic laws as they go through the intersection?
Yeah, that's what I thought costs for.
We are going to do that. So right now, the costs were kind of what we think is most expensive, but we, as part of our work, we are going to do a cost estimate. We haven't got those done yet.
We won't have it.
No, so the cost, it would just be what you think is the most expensive one, but we're gonna actually use actual concept costs, try and rank those. So that one's not as critical. You don't need to spend a lot of time trying to figure out what's the most expensive one, because we are gonna do that. But I've got, just wondering, we want to prioritize these because we want to apply some weighting to the scoring, because some of these criteria may be more important to you than some of the others. And so as we do the scoring and rank them, we want to make sure that we're weighting them correctly. So we got a few
We're
minutes.
just scoring our
Yeah. So if you just
relative importance.
Yeah, you can score it too from that. So just like 1 to 6. So if you could write down your priority, 1 to 6, 1 being this is what the most important criteria we evaluate.
Cheap.
Down to 6. All right. You already helped us get our first one.
One of the gym.
Yeah. We can say.
One of these ones we do, right? That's how you prioritize.
Okay. The what? The east side? Yeah, did you take a note of that?
Yeah, I've been
We'll
taking
take-
notes the whole
We'll
time,
take a look
so
at that.
I don't know.
Yeah. There's some utilities over there, but yeah, I mean, right now, you know, we're high level, so we haven't gotten into that, but yeah, we'll take a look at that.
Yes, rank them 1 through.
1 through 6, so yeah.
Which is your highest priority of those things if you were to?
Feels like trail user safety and compliance are almost the same.
And
Whole numbers, no decimals. I know you're an engineer. You have to do 1, 2, 3.
You just complicated it.
Numbers we can get.
Well, 1 to 6, Jim.
I have a question for our city employees and city councilor, just out of curiosity, of all of these, which is probably the most reliable? Like, are there any of these where people would just say, no, it's not going to happen? Would some be easier than others? Does that make sense?
I don't know if there's really, I mean, if, like, say, for example, if there was one that was really expensive and that was overwhelming, that's the one that staff wanted, public wanted, council supported, then that's why it gives you, because then we go to the need some more money, because this is the one that we want. And then we looked at the program that's gonna be a few years out, and that's how it happens.
I think eliminating your right hand turn lanes is going to be very. Controversial. Say it,
I'm not sure northbound is a big, I know what you're talking about because they took it away from my street. And I'm not a big fan, Sam.
There's one.
8 South at State. And I was actually gonna do a personal study to find out how many cars are turning and getting stuck behind one idiot
Yes.
that sits there in the through lane. And I'm gonna convert it to, yeah,
Yeah, we'll go straight to the Costco.
that was terrible.
Oh,
8 South.
So I feel your pain.
But so I understand there's gonna be people people that use that are gonna get annoyed.
Another issue I'm concerned about, quite frankly, from that area, from the south, is we do have Timpanogos High School there. We do have kids who aren't really experienced drivers. And they're having a hard time getting out from Timpanogos onto Ford, and if that backs up, because you don't have that right turn, you're gonna just have mayhem there. Now, maybe it's only gonna be lunchtime and after school, but there have been accidents Laura was talking about on 1500 North by that church, where the kid, you know, when I was on the school committee council there, we were trying to get the city to put in a light with the school district, and they were, it's not, but I mean, there's an accident. You got that whole issue of kids who don't drive very well.
Yeah. That's true.
We're about to the point where we can go out and collect data and we can probably model it. Give us a better idea too, if we take away rights, what does that do? What does the backup look like? So we can go out, the school starts what, next Wednesday?
Yeah.
So we can go out for a few weeks when it normalizes, we can see what those are. And throw it in synchro real quick and to see if it's gonna back up to Tiffin or if it looks like, hey, I think we're gonna be okay, or that helps us with.
We kind of take it down south to that intersection by the school.
The next intersection south, by the school.
Change a little bit, you've got 22 homeschooling there. Yeah, where do they go out?
They'll have an access to Northeast and they'll have one up to Tiffin, whatever it is, Tiffin Way or.
You might want to pull that into.
Okay.
Homes.
All right.
I mean, the one that'll affect is that north
Yeah.
one out of that area. But anyways,
Okay. Yeah, well, let's get together when
Yeah.
school's in and we can make sure we're looking at the right areas.
but that one though, to your point, Jay, I mean, that's also, we need to do a left there to go eastbound as well off of state. I mean, there's a lot of improvements that need to happen there. And I think we were.
Let's get rid of the through, make a right turn and 2 lefts.
Just 3 years.
Yes, I don't go straight, so it's fine.
Well, right or left.
That's right.
They have all the-
Well, we're actually gonna be overlaying that too, that area. soon.
Oh, awesome. Awesome.
You always give you traffic. control.
I'll just stay at home, how about that?
Lots.
Fine.
All right. Well, she's going through those. So I said, what I'm gonna do is send you guys a link where you can score these. And we like to score from score 1 to 5, so each of these criteria. So you know, alternative 1, you'll be able to have all these 6 criteria there. And for alternative 1, you'll rank each of these like, you know, that 1 to 5 where. So this describes for all criteria except for cost and compliance. So this is the safety and level of service criteria. So a 1 is there's a considerable decrease from what the existing, what we feel the existing safety or level of service is. A 3 would be about it's the same level of service as what's there now. And a 5 would be an increase, considerable increase, and then 2 and 4 would be someplace in between that. So this is all qualitative, how you feel it would score, but this kind of gives you an idea of where that score would be for those safety and level of service criteria. And I'll share this with you, so you don't have to write it down, so you can go back to this as you score it. For the cost criteria, it's all based on relative cost on expensive to inexpensive alternative. So a score of 1 would be the most expensive alternative. That would most likely be one of the great separated alternatives where we're building something underground. And then 5 would be the least expensive, where there's not as much construction or that we have to put into there. So that's relative. So you can score that how you basically what you think. But as I mentioned before, we're going to do a cost estimate and actually nail that down a little bit better. So we'll have a better idea of what is the most expensive and what's the least expensive alternative. And then for the compliance criteria, so 1 would be like there's no real change from the existing condition all the way up to number 5, where it'd be considerable increase from the existing condition. So just how you think each of these options would score, how well you would think they would increase and improve compliance. If you think it's going to be worse, just give it 1. So, and then as we're going through this exercise now, ranking the criteria? Is there a winner yet?
There is an obvious number one. Well, that's at least good.
That's good.
That's. We have a unanimous, this is the most important. This one came probably a pretty solid middle ground. Compliance came shortly after that, followed by vehicle level service. These two, you really bring me from happy to go to them 2, happy to go to them 6. Roll please. So. We're just weighing them with an average, so it's pretty split in the middle there. Happy to go with this.
I think that's fine.
Yeah, 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all right.
So what we want to do is, if it would be great if it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but this gives us an idea of how important it is for you. Because we're gonna apply a weight to those, so trail user safety, so when you give the score, after we've added up your scores for that, we're gonna weight it, and what we've done is our team with Sam and Taylor and Taggart came up with a weighting system of it was 1 to 5, where the most important criteria got a weight of 5, so whatever the score is, we multiply that by 5 for the number 1. And there's some like the ones that are rated 3. It's okay if there's 3 of them that have a 3. That means that they get a weighting of 3, all of those. So I guess the question here is for weighting and how important these are. What's your gut feel? Are you feeling like we're heading in the right direction for how you feel about these criteria? Is the one that you think is most important, is it up there? Is the one that you think it isn't as important? Is it getting too much? The ranks too high?
You put all of our disputes in the middle, so.
We'll compare this to the weighting that we came up with our team and Sam and Taylor. What we want to do is take what you guys will score, what we scored, and kind of reconcile them together. See if hopefully we're all on the same page. If not, then we can just combine them and see how that affects it, and then we can report back on to what we recommend for the alternatives moving forward.
Obviously, if you get better convenience for the trail, you're gonna get better compliance. They're kind of in lockstep.
And also the cost, $50 million to do underground, $2 million to the others. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and that's fine, that cost and that are they're gonna work themselves out, but is there a way to, and not that I don't like this exercise, but is there a way to analytically look at? You know, waiting, some of them probably not, because I'm actually kind of partial to the crosswalk through the middle of the round. Kind of dig that, but there's no studies you're gonna find that says that's relatively safe compared to a hawk signal on an 11,000 ADT roadway, right? But you can, I'm sure there's stuff on a hawk signal, right, in compliance.
Yeah, it's probably easier to find data like that, the roundabout will go across through the
So I
middle.
guess my question is, you guys have intend to do some analytical safety that to the extent you can?
Yeah, we're actually gonna build traffic models for these alternatives that we decide to move forward. We're gonna do traffic models and looking at that deeper. We'll be able to look at local service. I want to look at the cost benefit ratio because, you know, different types of treatments. There's research out there on like how many accidents can be reduced by certain types of treatments, and we can look at, help us nail that down and see which one we recommend. So the goal is, the next steps here is to get your evaluation. So I don't know if I should just send that to you, Sam, compile an email with all everything and distribute it to the commission. That might be the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think we would take your guys' input collected. If through that, there's also some other comments, hey, I'd like to see some numbers, I'd like to see some other things, I think. And we can bring that to the next TAC meeting, that gives us 4 weeks that if there's some specific data you guys are looking for, I know some of you are more data driven. That gives us time to go ahead and sample that with, you know, a few of those alternatives. I mean, we had 13 here counting the no build, and really we'd like to get it down to 5 or 6, something that's a little bit more manageable, so we're not spending our wheels wasting time on it. But I think, yeah, your point, it'd be nice to see some, okay, what is compliance mean with the Hawk versus compliance with an RFP? What does it do? I mean, if we take away those right turns, does it really back up that far? You know, or are we worried about how many cyclists are actually on 60? Or are we really worried about that? Or that's pretty easy to take care of with some green paint and making those things, like some of those things that we haven't thought of, we can incorporate those in. And kind of make that work, so.
Yeah.
And plus it helps us if we're looking at, okay, how are we gonna separate that trail from the traffic? Are we gonna put in some K rails, some of that big higher barrier? Then we do include that as part of that cost estimate, what's the maintenance look like, things like that, so. Yeah, I think this is just, like, we sat down and did get a little crazy with that scramble right through the middle of the roundabout, but it allows some of the movements to still happen, even though it's shut down. Even if it is like a railroad and this crossing arms that drop down, people stop. But what's the compliance gonna be like? Are people gonna wait? Or are they still gonna run out there? And that's kind of those things that we're trying to balance. But yeah.
So. Give us the feedback and we can report back, so we'll get your scores, I'll get that stuff out to you. Do it as soon as you can, you can get it within the next week, that gives us time to. Get back, prepare to ours and prepare for the next meetings, we can report back to you. We want to get down to, like Sam said, five or so alternatives, one of those being about, and then we're gonna dig into that deeper. We'll do traffic analysis, concept design, so some of these questions about how things are actually fitting. We'll take a more detailed look at that, feasibility of these options, we'll do cost estimates, so that we have a better idea of what the cost is for each of these alternatives. We'll have a public open house, and so Holly's going to be leading that for us. We can present these options, and then that refine it down to what we would recommend for the treatment for that intersection. So that's what we've got coming up, and so there's my email and Holly's email on the sheet too, so feel free to email us with any questions too, as you go through this, and we'll look for some information here. I'll be sending that out. I'll get that all wrapped up tomorrow so I can send it out. And so you can get that out to everyone and start doing your scoring. I was chatty tonight, took up a lot of your time, but appreciate the opportunity to share with you what we've got done so far and receive your input. It's been very valuable, and I think it's going to really help us have a successful project. So, thank you. Thank you. That's awesome.
I did.
So you found another location that's similar, that they've done something. Like we looked in that.
We've looked at not well, a little bit in our research session, like to really dig in to other options. We've kind of focused on what we've seen and experienced here that was by or seen on other bells, but yeah, like I don't think we've looked at like other like Europe. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things I think we can learn from like European countries. They're so far ahead of us on active transportation facility, but they're.
We'll get a promotion to adjourn.
Unless there's any other items you guys had to discuss or anything, any things you've seen that we could. Just send Taylor an email, look at East South and State Street to see if there's.
Who's watching those guys on 12 South?
12 South. That would be the asphalt. Our guys.
Don't open their eyes.
As they were out of State Street going the first to pass those spurs.
They were much better today when I went through. The other day, we sat there and the flagger had one direction shut down to the point where everybody turned around. The other side was coming through with the tractor going through the traffic. And traffic had to stop for the tractor going in and out of traffic. And then traffic would keep going, but for over 15 minutes, we sat there waiting, never got a turn going westbound, while eastbound had to dodge a tractor. So it was less than awesome.
I've
But
done my best to avoid that,
I have now,
yeah.
learned my lesson, but
Generally, if I see orange signs and cones, I just go somewhere else. Because the flaggers, when we went through the flaggers were not really paying attention.
yeah, they were doing better. Like I said, this morning I accidentally went through. And they had 3 flaggers at Main and 12. And they were paying attention and getting people through, so it was better.
I'll send Jared a text about that. Seven guys been out there. But yeah, 8 South is gonna be coming up too, pretty soon. They'll start doing that. They should be starting to lower the manholes, the valves, and they come in the middle. They're gonna close. Or some. But south, we're actually just gonna go ahead because with that property owner that's on the northwest corner, and we would have had to have maintained some sort of access for that for him in perpetuity for the project. We're just gonna leave that westbound. Yeah, we're not gonna close it. We're just open this. The thought was to close it so they have more area for staging, but we'd have to keep their access in and out. We couldn't have it obstructed. They couldn't stack steel there or anything. So we're just like, well, then let's just keep it that way. It alleviates some of the pressure here. It makes it out.
Wait until November, close it, tell them that hibernate.
Parents don't though. Well, parents- Oh, this guy, yeah.
See you in May.
Still we have it actually, then it'll probably next spring, summer, is when it will be closed because we'll be all these there. We'll have to work around Kelly wanted to figure out how, but we have 3 different pipelines that'll have to be installed on that road. It'll be
So is the project going down, was it 6th and 8th? Is that part of the same thing? Is that the one line going in?
Yeah, so right now on 600 West and 8, they'll be running down a storm drain line, which is also going to serve as the tank overflow.
Okay.
And it'll come up and it'll also serve as the drain for the tank. And then there's another line that will be there. It'll be a fused HDPE pipe, and it'll be a gravity line that'll tie into the bottom of the tank, go down. It'll actually service the spring water area. Right now, all of our water zones come from the tank up here, and they feed down from northeast down to southwest, but they go through zones. And at each zone, we have what we call a pressure reducing valve. But what happens in this central zone, in this area, then you drop off the hill and in the spring water zone is when the golf course goes to irrigate at night at Lakeside Sports Park. It's a huge draw. All those pressure reducing valves open up, and then it draws on the central zone. So we have some pressure issues during the peak about this time of year at night. So now with this gravity line to go around the bypass, that draw happens, it'll just come from the tank and it shouldn't draw the central zone. So pressures should be a little bit more balanced. We should be able to manage that a little bit better. So that's why that road's going to be blown up for a
I was
while.
kind of curious why my showers take skin off at about 8 o'clock at night.
Actually, it shouldn't be much at all. It should be in the morning when they shut that off, and all of a sudden it builds up,
There you
then
go.
you lose your hair on top.
There it is. Morning showers, that's the one.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of what's gonna happen with that. Hillcrest Park should be done. I think they're projecting it to be done in October, no November. And then the city center, it's gonna be. Then the building will be up, and then it'll be another 6 months before this building is demoed and then the parking lot up. Yeah, it's a lot of bond money, and we now have, I have all the descriptions for the roundabout at Fort South West, so we should be. I'll bring those to the board of trustees, the UDU, and to the church, and get those things buttoned up in that project. Fort South West, Fort South West, yeah. So, yeah. That's all I had.
I need to go get it off the printer.
I move to.
Second that.
All in favor? Yeah, opposed?
Everyone get that. I'll be right back.
I'm doing one next month.
I think so. Let me just stop recording here.